Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another Fall Obsession podcast episode. My name is Sam Thrash. I'm your show host over here. Thank you all for tuning in. This week, my guest is one of our own here at Fall Obsession. It is her first time on the podcast. That's Miss Jordan Henderson. She is a field staffer with us. She is the founder and owner of a brand called Huntress Holdings and has several other irons in the fire with her entrepreneurial spirit. So, really enjoy this conversation with her. Just getting to talk to her about everything that she's got going on and some awesome hunts that she's had the opportunity to go on recently, her and her husband. So, great conversation, and I hope you guys enjoy it. This is another installment, if you will, in my efforts to try and get some of our own team members here at Fall Obsession, some of our own people on the show to talk about the 2024 season and just some of the unique things that they do as hunters and outdoors men and women. So, hope you guys enjoy this podcast. Before we turn it over to our talk with Jordan, though, we got to talk about some of the partners here at Fall Obsession that help us keep the lights on and the wheels rolling. The first one is Hoot Camo. Hoot Camo is a Texas-based brand, and their patterns are extremely versatile, very unique camouflage concepts that work very well in many different environments. I've worn their gear in the hardwoods of Texas, in the plains, the flatlands of Colorado, the mountains in central Idaho, and I have yet to find an environment where my Hoot gear is not doing the job. It's high quality, and the best part about it is at a price point that is realistic and affordable for the everyday hunter and outdoorsman. So if you guys are looking to get into a good quality set of camo at a price that you can afford, again, for the quality, then you need to check out Hoot Camo. And if you're wanting to save some money at checkout, you can use the code FALLOBSESSION15. That will knock a few dollars off at checkout for you guys. They also have more than just camouflage. They got your normal other apparel with hats and t-shirts. They got everyday lifestyle wear. They got fishing gear, all that kind of stuff. Make some great Christmas presents too for the hunter and your family. Go check out Hoot Camo. We're debuting a new partner in this episode of Fall Obsession Podcast, and that is Bear River Archery. It's an archery shop here in North Texas that is doing great things and helping us out here at Fall Obsession, taking care of the Fall Obsession team, Justin and the guys over there. They do great work, quality work on your archery equipment. So if you guys are local to the North Texas area, you need to head over and check out everything that Bear River Archery is doing over there in Van Alstyne, Texas. Trophy Edits is a Fall Obsession partner. Maybe you guys have had that photo, perhaps this season even, that you were excited about. It's a memory that is significant to you, something you're not going to forget. You lay eyes on that picture, and it just doesn't quite do the moment justice. Maybe the lighting's off, it's too dark, whatever it might be out of focus, blurry. The Trophy Edits team will take that photo, they'll clean it up, they will make the most of it, and help you capture that memory in its full potential. You can also order prints and a ton of other stuff through there. So if you guys go to the link in the description on this podcast episode, that will take you over to the Trophy Edits website and let them know that you came from us. We always appreciate it. Go check them out. Ridge Rock Hunt Company is a Fall Obsession podcast partner. Derek Eves is the man over there in Mississippi, booking hunts with vetted and trusted outfitters across North America. So if you're looking to book that next adventure, perhaps your once-in-a-lifetime hunt you've been saving up for, then let Derek do all the hard work for you and set you up with one of his trusted and vetted outfitters. Let Ridge Rock Hunt Company book your next hunt for you. The Outdoor Call Radio app is a Fall Obsession podcast partner. Outdoors Dan from Respect the Game TV, he created an app that you can download on any device where you can stream hunting shows and podcasts on a loop every single day. You will catch Fall Obsession podcast on that app on Mondays, same day as our new publications, along with tons of other hunting shows and podcasts we all know and love. Go download the Outdoor Call Radio app today. It is free, and you can start streaming immediately. And go follow Outdoors Dan on social media because he shares a couple different live radio show broadcasts he does on his social media pages. Go download the Outdoor Call Radio app today. Finally, thank you guys again for tuning in to another Fall Obsession podcast. Wherever you are streaming this episode from, we would appreciate it if you guys left us a review. if that's an option, and hit that follow, like, subscribe button, whatever they have up there for you. Turn your notifications on if that's an option. Head on over to the YouTube channel. Check out everything we got going on over there. You can also, if you like watching the podcast videos, the video version of our productions and everything, those are posted every Thursday to our YouTube channel, along with some of our other hunting shows and films that we're releasing right now. So be sure you guys get plugged in over there on the YouTube. Fallobsession.com is the website, and at the time that I am recording this podcast episode, we are doing our 12 days of Christmas sale. Every single day we have a different apparel item on sale for a screeching deal this holiday season. You guys don't want to miss out on that. All of our other content also filters through the website, including several educational articles and pieces that some of our own staff have put together this fall relevant to deer hunting or just hunting in general in their respective areas. So lots of great content at fallobsession.com for you guys to check out. Hit up the social media pages. We post multiple times a day right now during hunting season on those platforms. And if you are not streaming our shows on Carbon TV, you need to be. This podcast streams on Carbon, as well as our staff-inspired video podcast series called Couch Chats. It's on there. And our two different hunting shows called Midwest Mindset and Texas Dirt. Those are also streaming on Carbon TV. Go download the Carbon TV app or pull it up on your computer, your smart TV, and start streaming today for free. With that, we are going to get Jordan in here and kick off our conversation with her. You guys are listening to another Fall Obsession podcast.
Oh, you got her, dude. She's down. Let's go.
Dude, I just shot a deer of a lifetime.
Freaking smoked him.
One with nature, and if you're a believer, one with God.
Definitely gets your heart pumping. Boy, you are in trouble.
Fall Obsession Podcast.
Welcome back, everybody, to another Fall Obsession podcast. My name is Sam, and I'm joined this week. My guest is Miss Jordan. She's one of our field staff team members here at Fall Obsession, and has quite the entrepreneurial drive over there in the Southeast. But welcome to Fall Obsession Podcast, Jordan. Happy to have you.
Thank you so much, Sam. I'm really excited to be here and looking forward to talk about more about me and more about, of course, Fall Obsession and everything that you guys have done for me to help me get out more into the hunting arena, especially with that Sika deer hunt. It was fantastic. So thank you so much. I'm glad to be here.
Absolutely. I look forward. I want to hit on that Sika deer hunt for sure in this podcast, because that was pretty awesome seeing what came out of that for you. But to start us off, just for our listeners that don't know who you are, take a moment to introduce yourself and just tell us where you're from, what you do, and all that kind of stuff.
Sure. So I'm Jordan Henderson. And as you mentioned, I have an entrepreneurial spirit. And I have, up until 5 months ago, always been in corporate America, and really decided that it was time for me to take a leap of faith, if you will, and really dive into what my passion was. And that is being outdoors, being with my family. And last year in October, I formed Huntress Holdings. And that company is built around going outdoors and being a part of that with your family. It's also responsible firearm ownership. That is something that I am very passionate about. I do have my federal firearms license, and making sure that you teach your children from a very young age about how to respect a firearm or a bow for that matter, what kind of power those things have. And that's super important to me. And I'm taking it to the next level, just like I try to do with everything in my life. And I'm really looking forward to the journey.
That's awesome. So you spoke to kind of wanting to leave corporate America and wanting to pursue something you're passionate about, and I'm somewhat speaking from experience myself with this from years ago, but making that jump from, just being outdoors with your family because the goal
Yeah.
and what I hope everybody's doing that regardless of what you do for a living, but actually making the leap to making that your living.
Yep.
What was the inspiration behind that, or what made you think I need this brand?
So for me, I'll have to say I was very successful in corporate America. I worked really hard, climbed, that secret ladder, right, that nobody can see, worked my way up into the sea level. And it's it was great. I learned a lot. I had a great time. I worked with some fantastic people over the years, but I spent the last 3 years of my life on an airplane and traveling every week. And I literally just looked around one day and I'm thinking to myself, I'm missing the most important parts, right? Like I'm not there to see like when my son wants to go fishing or if he wants to go out and hunt. Um, and my husband and I are both very into the outdoors more than, and you say, hey, you hope everybody does that. They don't,
Right.
right? There's so many kids that are stuck behind a TV screen, a tablet, a gaming system, or whatever. My son does have an iPad, right? He's like begging for an Xbox, and I'm like, no way, no, you're going to go outside, right? Get your bow, practice, and we take him hunting. We do all of those things, and it was such a pivotal moment for me because making that leap is really scary.
Yes.
Like if anybody tells you that, oh no, I'm 100% like sold, it's going to be great. No, it's scary. Um, and it's okay for it to be scary. Like there are still times that I'm like, man, I can't believe what I'm doing right now. And it's really, I mentioned to you, Sam, before, I am and have purchased a deer processing company that's been in business here where I'm at for over 30 years. And people, it's funny, a lot of people in the community here, they know me, they know my husband, they know our family, and they come in and they see me in there processing deer or a bear or a hog. And they're like, what are you doing in here? Right? Because they've always known me to be like a corporate businesswoman,
Right.
which I still am. But I'm taking it into a place that I really love. And the interesting part about it is I love the processing. I love knowing that the business that I'm doing is feeding people's families and it's feeding them healthy food, right? Like real farm to table,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So it's I can't really say other than knowing that I was missing out
Hmm.
and wanting the opportunity to do something that I loved, but do it with the people that I love, right?
Hmm.
Because if I said, oh, I wanted to go be whatever it is, I could pick something else, but I wouldn't necessarily be here to be with them. And that's one thing that we all have in common is we want to get outside and do fun stuff together.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
What let me ask you this. What have you did you have any experience processing before you kind of picked up this gig, or has it been learning that side of it since you tapped into this as well?
No, no. So I didn't. Um, I'll kind of laugh a little bit about myself. Still sometimes, right? Like when my husband would be out like skinning a deer or something, and it was gut shot, and I'm like, it's not great. Um, and one thing in the processing world that you realize is there are all different types of hunters, all different types. Um, there are many different types skin their deer. Let's just use deer only in this case, right? They skin their deer. Some of them know how to do it really well. Some of them do not,
Right.
right? So there's a lot that that I've had to learn. Um, but the most like I said, the most rewarding thing about it is the way that we take them in are, they're quartered up. Because this gentleman that I purchased the business from, he's older. And so he takes them quartered up, and oftentimes they're, both hams will still be connected. Right? Folks don't know how to do that. But to take that and turn it into a product that someone can take home and feed their family is awesome. But because of how my husband would probably say bullheaded, but because of the drive that I have, to do well at whatever it is that I set my mind to, I have really been able to pick up on it really quickly, and I really, really enjoy it.
Yeah.
Which, my husband's like, I don't want anything to do with that. I'm like, you don't have to. I'm going to do it. So I didn't know anything about it. And it's funny because I wanted to purchase the business a few years ago, couldn't get him to agree to do it. Still didn't know anything about it then. Know a lot more about it now.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been a learning process, but it's been great.
Yeah. It all happens in the right season of life, it seems like. So
Yeah, it does.
So circling back real quick to your Huntress Holdings and everything, with the mission being, getting families, getting people in the outdoors together and everything.
Right.
How do you, through that brand, through your website, through all that kind of stuff, how do you seek to accomplish that?
Right. So there's a couple of different ways. And now that my husband and I have actually closed on the piece of property where we're going to have the processing facility, that is something that, like, I should say, the weekend before, and get families to come out and talk about, like, hey, let's do who's going to get the longest this year. We'll do a contest. I want to do those types of things, like a big doe contest, or big buck, do it on weight, do it by scoreable, net score or something of that nature.
Right.
And when you really start to engage in the hunting community that way, that's when you start to get that traction. So we just closed on our piece of property last Friday. So
Congratulations.
I'm really excited. Thank you. I'm really excited about it. But we, like, that Saturday, last Saturday after we closed, we were painting and doing all kinds of stuff over there. And a couple of the young guys that go to church with us on Sunday, I said to their parents, like, hey, send them over to the land, have them come help us paint. And so I'm already starting to engage them in that way, but I'm telling them, hey, next year when processing is up and running, hey, has Sika Deer, why don't you come work? And start to teach them about business in addition to hunting, and something that they can do with their hands, because it's so much more than it's great to get out and have a barbecue and have a contest and all those things. But when you could take a young man or a young woman and say, hey, let me show you how to run a business. Let me teach you how to be responsible in some of these things. That stuff is invaluable. So that's something that I am looking forward to be able to do for hopefully many kids.
That's awesome, because, and I'm sure you're well aware of, of all people, that this is how it is, but you have corporate America, you have formal education, and your business degrees, marketing degrees, whatever you want to pursue, right? And not that those don't have their place, but I'm a believer that actually being boots on the ground in a small business environment and learning it from the people who are actually doing it every day and who actually built it from the ground up, I think that is where those kind of folks, young people, can get that kind of knowledge and experience and find their passion. Maybe they learn from there that they too want to, start their journey or start their own business or whatever it might be. And while there might be some education that is applicable, maybe it also puts them on a faster track to be like, I don't need to go to a university for 4 years to be able to do this. It's
Yeah. It's kind of like what my husband and I say all the time. I'm educated, I have a degree, all of those things, but there's people that are very, very book smart and don't have any common sense.
Mhm.
Right. And that is where I think I get really passionate about the hunting industry specifically, is the two things there have to intersect, right? You have to have some level of book knowledge, right?
Mhm.
We're talking firearms. Okay. You have to have some knowledge, but you also have to have common sense
Yep.
to be able to do some of these things. So like I said, I mean, if I can inspire one kid, maybe my own kid, um, hey, you can take a leap of faith, start your own business, and make it successful. It's not, is it easy? No, there's always going to be things that are hard about it. But if you have passion behind it and you're coming to the table from the right place in your heart, it's going to work out.
Yeah. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. So I want to talk to you a little bit about some hunting because
Yeah.
despite running a business, buying a processor, processing deer,
Yes.
you are still getting your family in the outdoors, as is your passion. You are still finding time to get some quality hunting time in and everything. You mentioned earlier the Sika Deer hunt, so let's start at the top. Let's start there and
Yeah.
talk to us about this opportunity and from start to
Mm-hmm.
finish how that was for you guys.
Absolutely. So I have to thank Fall Obsession first, because I would not have had the opportunity to go on that hunt if it wasn't for Anthony lining everything up and talking about it on one of our calls. And I remember, like, I want to go. I was like, I'm so in on this, like I'm doing it. And talked to my husband, and we were like, all right, we're going, we're doing it, got everything lined up. And it was like the week before, or maybe a week and a half before, the hurricane came through, and everything on the eastern shore of Maryland had been, like, I mean, it was underwater. So we ended up getting a camping spot that was like an hour and 15 minutes away from where we met the guides every morning.
Oh wow.
So we, right. So we were getting up at like 3 o'clock in the morning and driving an hour and some change, and meeting up with the guides, going and hunting in the morning. And then we had like maybe an hour and a half or so of like a break. And then we were back hunting again in the evening. And it was before the time changed. So we weren't getting back um to our camper. We weren't getting back until, I mean, 11 o'clock, something like that, and then having to get up again at 3. So
Wow.
we were hunting hard, like really, really hard. And the Sika deer are known to be mostly nocturnal, so that's why they're so like sought after. Well, the meat is amazing, but they're a trophy even when when you see one, right? Like a um they're not anything like a whitetail,
Right.
right? You're like, that's the trophy. Um, but it's because they're so elusive. And one thing about that hunt is, in the morning you would go and you would mostly hunt like hardwoods and things like that. Saw some whitetail, nothing that like would be a shooter, but saw a few doe come out and things like that. But in the evening is when you would go into like the marshy areas, and you want to talk about a great experience. It was just amazing. There was a day that we went out in the marsh, and we drove out. And I remember thinking, we got into like the river, and we were just going, I mean, for a long way. I mean, I don't even know how long we went. And they pull up to like a section of like marsh weeds, and they're like, get out. go to your stand. It's, 100 yards that way. Well, thankfully, I was the only female on the trip. That was part of the guide service, and so they walked me to my stand, which was great. There were a couple of times they were like, "Hey, be careful right here. There's a muskrat hole. If you step in it, you're going to sink all the way up to your neck." But the scenery was absolutely breathtaking. It was gorgeous. I mean, you're sitting in a stand in the middle of nowhere. There's nothing around for miles and miles. All you can hear are the thousands of mosquitoes, and the sun starts to set, and it's, I mean, just incredibly breathtaking. It's so beautiful. And my husband and I were able to double up on a couple of Sika hinds, and actually took them there to a processor in Maryland and had him work them up for us. And I'm going to tell you, if you haven't ever tried Sika meat, it's so good.
Huh.
It's so good. We're planning on going back and doing a combo Sika and duck hunt with those guys. We enjoyed them that much.
Awesome. So what is and I think you touched briefly on it, but talk a little bit more in detail, just the where where these deer live, how they behave, because they're, like you
Oh
said,
yeah.
they're way different than whitetail. So for people who might have never even, for all I know, might not even ever heard of a Sika deer before listening to this podcast,
Mm-hmm.
what what make I know they're not exclusively nocturnal, or mostly at least, but
Right.
what makes them so unique? What's the big contrast?
Yeah. So they live in the marsh.
Right.
So when you think about, right, like a whitetail, you're going to go and sit in hardwoods or a big open field, right? Well, when you're hunting Sika, you are walking in, you know, at least thigh deep, waist deep water with, reeds up to your eye level
Huh.
to get to where you're going to hunt. Then you get into your stand, there's water and reeds all around you. And there's a feeder on a float, like no joke, on a float out in the water.
Wow.
And the Sika will, I mean, it's like they just appear, but they don't appear until it's almost dark. Um, and it, it's incredible. Like I said, they're small too. So when you think about like the size of a whitetail versus the size of a Sika deer, um, the best size comparison that I can think of is it's almost like the size of a goat,
Gotcha.
right? Like, or a like miniature donkey, right? Like that's the size that you're dealing with. Um, and the hinds, the females, they chirp. Okay,
Huh.
so where a white-tailed doe, right? If they spot you, they'll blow. A Sika hind, she'll chirp, 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 chirp. That's how you know she spotted you.
Hmm.
And once she does that, you're done. It happened to me one night. Um, so, and then so the stags, they are like elk. They bugle, and it sounds just like an elk, and it's amazing. Like you can hear them bugling from, I mean, like it seems like miles away, but they're just so hard to get on. And I'll tell this story about my husband. He probably doesn't want me to, but I'm gonna tell it anyway. um we went out on the Argo one evening, and you go out on the Argo because you can't physically walk to the stand, because and they put us up in these really nice like shooting houses, but they're made mostly for rifle, and we were shooting bow. And so my husband had a really nice stag come to his feeder, and he drew back on him, and because the window was horizontal and not vertical for a good bow shot, he went to look around to make sure he was going to clear the window and accidentally touched his release.
Oh
Oh,
man.
so he was, yeah, he wasn't happy. So he called me and he was like, not happy. Right. And I was like, I was dreading, our guide Murray was like came to pick me up first. And but it was great because the next evening we were able to double up together, and it's an experience unlike anything. Well, the only other thing that I've done that's been pretty much as cool was helicopter hawk hunting, and that was really cool. But it was right up there.
Wow, that's awesome. So they live in these swamps or these marshes. Do they like
Hmm.
have little like bedding in there, or because you say that they're mostly
You
nocturnal,
can't
but
see it.
it like just in the water
You
or in
can't see
a
it.
wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. So I wish I could. I think I sent. Hopefully, you have some video of like where we would
Yes.
like walk or take the Argo. You can't. You can't see where they would bed. I mean, the reeds and the water are over your head,
Wow.
so you don't know where they are. And because they're small, when they are walking, and you would think that you would hear them like splashing, splashing, splashing in the water. You don't. You don't hear them, and the reeds are so tall you can't see them until they just pop out into that one little open area. That's it.
Wow.
Our last evening there, I did get Hunter, one of our guides. He had a bugle call, and I was like, "Let me take that to the stand with me." And so I took it and tried it a couple of times, and I heard one like way off in the distance, but I can't wait to try it again.
That's awesome. Well, that's the kind of experiences that you want to go on. The kinds that,
Yes.
I've speaking from experience, I've been on those where it's like, okay, this is a once in a lifetime hunt for me, and once you're done with it, you're like, I'm gonna do that again. Turns out to not be. So,
Yes. I knew that first evening out, I was like, we'll be back.
so an awesome Sitka deer hunt, but you
Yes.
still had plenty of hunting going on back at home because I know that I saw a couple different whitetail photos. I saw your son
Yes.
with a whitetail. I saw a bear in there somewhere. Y'all have been
Yeah.
busy back at
Yeah.
home. So
Yeah.
talk about the fall hunting seasons at home this year.
So I'll start with this. Um, I have never been a bow hunter. I just I like firearms. I like shotguns. I like muzzle loaders, high power rifles. Those are the things I'm naturally drawn to. Well, I'm also extremely, extremely, extremely competitive. So my husband this year said, "Hey, I think you need to get a bow, um, and let's get out here and see who can shoot better." And I'm like, "Okay, right? Like,
Challenge accepted.
guarantee you, it's me." Yeah. So this year is the first season that I've ever hunted with a bow.
Wow.
I've gone a couple of times with a crossbow, okay, but um, I didn't care for the crossbow. So got myself a bow, was really like, I mean, I when I tell you when I got it, I practiced every single day,
That's
because I
awesome.
wasn't gonna let him beat me. I wasn't gonna let him beat me. So opening day, I went that morning, saw a few deer that, were like decent deer, but I was like nothing that would have shot. And then that afternoon went back, and a bachelor group came out, and there was the deer that I ended up harvesting that afternoon. He came in last, and I was looking at him and looking at him, and he came and he was 26 yards away and full broadside, and I was able to get pulled back, didn't spook anybody else that was in there, and made a great shot. He ran like 100 yards, and there he was. So
Wow.
my very first bow kill and my very first opening day. So
Wow.
that was great. Because like I said, normally I didn't hunt during bow. And then a couple of weeks ago, harvested a deer that for me, and I say all the time, like, hey, if it's a trophy for you, then you need to love it and be so proud of it. It's probably something that, like, in hindsight, I'm like, oh, maybe I should have let it walk, but it had a split brow tine, which out of all the deer that I've taken over the years, I've never had one with a split brow. I had one a couple of years ago that's real funky, got a lot of character. And that's really what I like. I mean, I like a really clean, typical deer, but I like trashy deers probably better. Trashy deer, excuse me. So, like I said, in hindsight, maybe I would have waited, but you know what? I already did it now.
Nothing
And
wrong with that.
so, in between there, yes, I did go. My husband, myself, and my son went on a bear hunt up in Asheville, North Carolina, and it was also right after Helene had come through and really devastated Western North Carolina, and we weren't sure if we were going to be able to go. And like the day before we were supposed to leave, the gentleman that we were hunting on his land, he was like, yeah, I have water and I have power, come on up. Like right now, the bear are becoming a nuisance for the community with all of the destruction that's already happened.
Mm-hmm.
The bear are getting into things that are making it worse. And so we went, and I, have you ever been bear hunting? Like, it's bear are so hard to judge, like on foot. Like when they come through, you're like, is that a big bear? Is that a little bear?
That's what I've
They're
heard.
really hard to judge.
I've never. That's one thing I've never done. I have never been bear hunting. It's on the list for sure. But everybody that I've talked to about it, they've said something along
Yeah.
those lines. On it's very challenging to judge size, or you got to compare it to branches on the tree that you've kind of got a gauge on how tall they are, or a line on a barrel, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
So
They're really hard to judge. Like, so I was there that morning, and a bear came out, and I like took a picture of him and sent it to our friend Phil, and I'm like, hey man, is this a good bear? He's like, it looks like a good one. And I'm like, come on, you do this all the time. Like, is it a good bear or not?
yeah.
And he's like, it's hard to tell. So I didn't shoot. So that one leaves, and then another one comes, shot that one, and um, thankfully dropped it right there. So no tracking or anything. I was like, okay, that was, I'm good. We don't have to do anything crazy.
Yeah.
Well, I actually got pretty ill. I don't know if I had like some kind of sinus something going on. I was like sick, and my husband went I don't know if it was the next morning that he did, or that afternoon. I'm not sure. It was one of them, but he went and shot a bear. And this goes back to why I say, like, I'm competitive, but I'm a bear shot, because he shot and his bear didn't drop.
Oh.
So his bear took off, and him and a couple of friends of ours went tracking him and tracked him for like 3 hours, and finally found him in a thicket. So where they go to hide when they're hurt, where it's like briars and a bunch of junk.
Yeah. Thick.
Well, they
Nasty.
knew it was in there. Yeah. And so they were like trying to throw logs in there and everything, like get him to come out. And he ended up coming out, and he started charging my husband.
Mm.
And thankfully my husband had his 10 millimeter on his side, pulled his pistol, shot 3 times, and the bear dropped in front of him, like, I don't know, 4 yards or something, like pretty
wow.
close. And he said, the bear was sitting there. I was not there, thankfully. he's like, the bear was shaking a little bit, and he said he went to, make one more shot to make sure everything was okay, and his slide was racked back.
Oh,
Had
wow.
no more ammo in the gun.
Oh,
I'm
wow.
like, okay, so what was I going to put on your obituary, that you were mauled to death by a bear? So I've been giving him a hard time about that.
Oh, wow.
But one thing I will say about our family as hunters is as much as we do love the sport of it and the trophies and all of that, like, we process those bear also.
Right.
We have bear meat, um, and we also eat that. So that's important for us too, that we're not just going out there and, you know,
It's
taking the animal
yeah,
without bringing the
it's
meat
not
home.
truly a trophy hunt or stuff like that. There's more of a purpose behind it, and I'm glad you mentioned that because there are people out there, maybe not necessarily listening to this episode, but people that don't understand that we eat bear, we eat mountain
Yeah.
lion. These animals that they look at and they're like, oh no, y'all are just a bunch of trophy hunters. There's no ethics or morals in that. It's like, no, we're eating what we kill. So I'm glad you
Right.
mentioned that because again, not a bear hunter yet, and haven't
Yeah,
experienced it yet, but from what I hear, it's delicious as well. So
it is. It's different,
yeah,
than like what you get with, your typical deer and things like that. Last year, in Texas, I was able to harvest an axis, really, really great
oh yeah,
meat. Bear is greasy. It's a greasier type of meat, but it's still very good. So we are not the hunters that, hey, we're going to shoot, just take the trophy part of it and leave the meat. No, we take the meat. We have little jerky sticks, we have summer sausage, we have roast, all of that. So it's like I said before, like real farm to table.
yeah, and a lot of that too just comes down to how it's processed and how you prepare it, also. Because I think
It
that we deal with
very
that
true.
down here with like the wild hogs that we have down here. Because there's people that are like, oh, hogs are nasty, hogs are gross, don't eat any hogs. My my wife's actually one of them. She doesn't care
Yeah,
for care for wild pig, but again, it's
yeah.
if it's the meat's cared for properly, it's processed right. Um, it can be pretty good if it's prepared right too.
It
So
can be, and I think a lot of it, right, is like you said, the care of it post your harvest, right? You have to care for it properly post harvest, and then you have to clean it properly. Then you get your processor to do what they're going to do with it. And then a lot of those like more gamey type of meats, right? You might have to soak them a little bit extra to pull some of that out. But unless you try it, you don't know.
yeah, exactly. You talked about the question mark on if you were going to get to go to that bear hunt based on the storm and the hurricane that came through and everything.
Yeah.
Were you guys impacted at all by that or
Yeah. So interestingly enough, right, the way that storm came up, it came up and went through like our mountains. And so where I live is like drop dead in the middle of the state of North Carolina. It's like smack dab in the middle. And so the western part, the mountains, you would never think that they would be the ones affected by a hurricane.
Mhm.
But the amount of water that, I mean, the level of destruction is, I can't even fathom being able to try to put it into words, because people's entire lives were just washed away,
yeah.
washed away right off the side of the mountain. Um, and growing up, when we were going up to Asheville, you could still see like all of the dirt, like where it covered 40, because 40 was closed. Highway 40 going up was closed because it was covered in mud. Um, as you started getting like kind of in the foothills where the destruction started, you could see like tons of debris just floating and on the side of the road. And it was incredible, like in a not good way.
Right. Yeah. Very humbling, I'd say.
But yeah, here we were, we got rain, but not anything like what they're having to deal with up there. It'll be years to come before it ever gets back to, I don't even know if normal's the right word, but before they're able to get it all repaired.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. Incredible stuff for sure. So you still got a couple of deer that we haven't talked about, and I think the next one that I saw, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I want to say it was your son behind a deer.
Yes, it was his first buck. So let me tell you about that day. So there's a deer. Well, I think he's still alive. I'm not sure. But there was a deer that I had on camera that I really like. That still was my target buck. Oh man, he's a beast. And he daylighted one time on a Saturday, like a couple of weeks before that. Then that particular morning, my son decided he wanted to go, and me, I guess you can call it, I don't know, I was being lazy or whatever. I was like, I'm not going. Guess what?
That was the morning.
He showed up again, right? So I'm like, oh my God. But then, the more I thought about it, I was like, it worked out, because if I would have been in the stand and he would have shown up, I was shooting, and I would have called my husband and been like, I shot him, come help me load him, all that stuff, and would have called him out of the stand with my son, right? Mm-hmm. So even though it stinks for me that I missed that opportunity, it worked out because my son got his first buck.
Yeah.
Right. And I didn't call my husband and call him out to come help me load him or whatever.
Because you're the better shot, and you would obviously have killed a deer, right?
100%. 100%. So my son got a nice 7-pointer, and if I could get him down here, he would be like, it was a beast. It's a big one. It's a monster. And that's the part of it that I love so much, right? Because he's like, yeah, it's a beast. Like, it was a big one. And he was so happy. Like, when I wish I should have recorded him when he called me, because he was like, Mom, I got one. And I'm like, I'll be there in 2 minutes, like in my pajamas, like going to check on him. And I even got my daughter, she's 16, non-hunter, does not care. She is a softie. She's a soft heart. And she's like, I can't do it, Mama. I can't do it. But she loves to eat game meat. Like, that's all we eat. So, even got her out of the bed that morning, and to get a 16-year-old up at that time, right? She went out and told her little brother how happy she was for him. And, we celebrated his first buck together as a family.
That's awesome.
And we've had him out a couple of other times, and he's seen a few things, but not anything that he wants to take a shot on yet. But what we're doing with him, and you guys might have seen, like on my stories, we have him set up with a thermal that it Bluetooths to his iPad. So when he is scanning and he's going to take a shot, you can actually, like, me or Dad can see where his crosshairs are.
Yeah.
Right. So that we can make sure that he's going to make an ethical and good shot.
Yeah. Right.
And that also is teaching him how to make sure that he's making those good shots.
Yeah.
For the last couple of years, he had a really hard time with the eye relief on a scope. So we got that thermal, and it works really great for him.
That's awesome. That's a pretty good idea with kiddos, those that are learning to hunt and everything. Because I've had that thought as well with my son, because he's not hunting yet.
Mm-hmm.
He's maybe maybe depending on how much he progresses this off season, next year might be his first year. We're waiting and seeing, but we're getting to
Ah,
that point, and so I'm like, man, how am I going to know for sure, right? How am I going to know for sure
right.
if he's where he needs to be or making the shot, taking the shot he needs to take, and that kind of stuff? And I like that idea. I'll probably have
Yeah,
to invest in that
that's why
myself.
we did that with him, because on a traditional scope, he couldn't, he would always be like, he'd lean up and lean back and lean up and move his head, and he's like, I can't see the crosshairs, and there's the circles, this big, and he would always complain about it. And so the thermal, even though it's cool for like us, right, to go coyote hunting or things like that, like it works the same in the daylight. But as a parent, you can see where the crosshairs are, and you can make sure that they have a steady, good shot. Like we have, like the bog grips, the vice grips up in the box stand for him, so that it's steady. We know where his shot's going. Um, and I mean, I would definitely suggest doing something like that with a child who's learning.
Yeah, that's an awesome idea. I love that. Well, good for him getting one
Yeah.
on the ground. Sounds like he was excited. I could see the excitement on his face in the pictures that you posted. It was good
Yeah, he was
stuff.
stoked.
That's awesome.
He really was.
Well, you also had, and I'm going down the list here at this point, but
Yeah.
most recently, I believe you had your Turkey Day buck, as you called it, which was it a public land deer? Do I remember that correctly?
No, so we don't hunt public
Okay, okay.
here where we are.
I apologize.
We
We get a
are,
lot of fall obsession kills, so
yeah.
sometimes I get the public private kills mixed up. So sorry
Yeah,
about that.
so
But
no, it's totally fine. That is actually one thing that, speaking of public land, that I'm really intrigued by. My husband and I have gotten to where we watched regularly the hunting public, right?
yep,
And seeing like what those guys are able to do on public land, right? Now they put their work in, right? 100%. They're knocking on doors. Hey, can we go here? Can we go there? Right? But I think I would really like to do that sometime. But no, it was private land that we have here in the area.
awesome. Well, an awesome experience for a Thanksgiving Day hunt.
Yes.
Something to be thankful for. That's awesome.
Yeah, I typically would not ever hunt on Thanksgiving, because I would always help my mom, right? Like I'd go to her house in the morning, and I would cook with her all day, and then we would have, the meal, and I would just be so tired that I couldn't. I was like, I'm not, how turkey makes you sleepy anyway. Um, but this year our gathering was really small, so my mom and I we were able to kind of like knock everything out. We all ate lunchtime, and that evening I was like, I'm gonna go sit in the stand and go hunt and see what happens. So it was great to be able to do that on Thanksgiving Day.
That's awesome. Very cool memory for sure. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I got a couple of questions that I want to ask you since this is your first time on our Fall Obsession podcast and everything.
Yeah.
The first one is just about in your life, what is one of at least your favorite hunting memories that you have? And it might be one that you've already told us about for all we know, but um, tell us what it might be and kind of why that is one of your favorite memories.
Uh, so I'm gonna have to go with the helicopter hog hunt. Um, if you've never done that, it is awesome. Like, it's amazing. The adrenaline rush that you get by going up in a helicopter, like hanging out the side with, a 243, and mowing down hogs, right, when you come up on them. It's so much fun. And so when we went, I think I don't remember how many times we went up, but my husband and I, like I said, were competitive. So we were like, how many did y'all get? How many did y'all get? And we ended up taking the most hogs that day, I think by one. But that was such a memorable hunt because there's not a lot of people that are able to have that experience.
Yeah.
And like I sat in the front of the helicopter next to the pilot. My husband sat in the back, and we he's gonna kill me when he ever hears this or watches this thing, but we
airing out all the
we
laundry.
got on, yeah, we got on a coyote. And so like when and you know how coyotes, they dive and move and everything, weave around. And so in the helicopter, we're going like this, like trying to get on him. And all of a sudden, like my husband got like really quiet. And then he's like starting to throw up outside of the helicopter because he got motion sickness. And so the pilot's like, take your coat off, So he's like trying to take his coat off. He's like, and give me your headset. We don't want to listen to that, So gets his headset. We like, and so we land. And me being the loving wife that I am, I'm like videoing him throwing up and like sending it to his friends. Right. I'm like, look at your friend. But no, he did good. After that, we went back and I made him a sandwich and he got some food, and he was better like the next go round. But I think that hunt and the Sika hunt, just because of the scenery, like I said, I have so many pictures on my phone of the sunsets out there in the marsh, like, wow, just incredible. But the whole time we were hog hunting, I was literally just like laughing hysterically because I was having the best time. And I really hope that more people are able to do that. Like the cost of that type of hunt would come down and be more affordable for like the masses, because it's awesome.
Yeah. No, that's really cool. Were there multiple helicopters going at the same times? You talked about it being
Yes.
okay.
Yep.
I
We
got
had
you.
two flying at the same time. And so what would happen is like both would kind of go up, right, with their two like groups. And, one would essentially go this way and one would go that way. And then the two pilots would talk. And so like when pilot number one would come into a group of hogs, right, he would come and tell the pilot, hey, hogs, hogs, hogs. And then you'd go over, they would do their shooting, and then you'd come in behind them, and anything that they didn't get, you would track them. So it's an incredible experience.
That's
it really
awesome.
is. It's really freaking cool.
Very cool. Well, the next question I have for you, kind of piggybacking off of that, because you've talked about the Sitka hunt, you've talked about being able to go on a helicopter hog hunt, obviously have the bear hunting experiences. You got, everyday whitetail, what I would call it. That's the bread and butter, right? But what's on your bucket list? What are some hunts that you haven't gotten to do that you would consider those once in a lifetime opportunities right now?
Once in a lifetime. I want to go to Africa.
Africa.
Yep. So I am a board member for the Carolinas chapter of Dallas Safari Club.
Okay.
And have some great connections in that organization. And I know this is going to sound silly, but like, I want to get a baboon. Okay. We were at the Dallas Safari Club convention last year, and there was a little baboon that the taxidermist had him standing upright, and he had on like a little butler's vest and his hands were out, and he was holding a tray with like mints on it, and he was, cheating, his fangs were out. I was like, I gotta have one of those. So that, I know it sounds silly, but that's kind of what I would like. I'd love to go and have the opportunity to do alligator one day. I think that would be scary,
Yeah.
right? You're like on black water, you can't see down there, and could be a 8, 9, 10 foot gator in there. Like that would be really cool, but really scary.
Yeah.
I think I'd like to do that. So those are a couple things that I would mark as like bucket list.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, the last question I have, and this will kind of take us to wrapping up our conversation for this podcast at least, but you talked to the beginning just about your Huntress Holdings brand, the mission behind it, kind of what drove you away from the corporate America side into where you guys are now and everything. Say that there's somebody listening to this that might be stuck in corporate America. They're like, I want to get out, but they don't have that
Mm-hmm.
security. They're unsure about it. Any advice for them?
Yeah, well, yes. My first piece of advice is if that feeling is there and it's strong enough, you have to be willing to make yourself uncomfortable. Huntress Holdings originally started that company, that LLC, a sales consulting business. That's what I've done my entire life. And I was like, man, it just doesn't feel right. It didn't feel like, okay, I didn't know. And as I continue to pray about it and talk to my husband about it, and really Huntress Holdings is basically the holding corporation, and I formed another brand called Triggers and Truth, and the tagline for that is where faith meets firepower, right? And so if you're stuck in wherever you are, if you're stuck at McDonald's, if you're stuck on the climbing the corporate ladder, if you're stuck at the top, like, you don't have to be stuck there, right?
Yeah.
Will you maybe be uncomfortable? Yeah. But get yourself ready for that. Like, you don't grow in comfortable places. You grow in uncomfortable places. And I'm not going to sit here and say at all that the last 5 months for me, every day has been like, I am so comfortable and
Yeah.
I know that I'm on the right path. There are days that I'm like, am I doing the right thing? Like, am I going the right direction? And you will second guess yourself. But when you know in your heart that it's the thing that you really want to go and do, you got to be willing to do it.
Yeah. Very well.
And I think so many people have been indoctrinated into, you have to do this 8 to 5, 8 to 6, 9 to 5, whatever it is, right? You got to do it that way. Well, you don't have to.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to. But it ain't going to be easy either.
Yeah. No, very well said. Well, Jordan, tell our listeners on the episode here where they can find you if they want to follow along with everything you got going on and check it all out.
Absolutely. You can get to everything about me on huntressholdings.com, including the links to my social media. I'm pretty active, mostly on Instagram, and a little bit on Facebook, some on TikTok. But yeah, give us a follow, check us out. If you have questions about Huntress Holdings or Triggers and Truth and where we're going with it, shoot me a message and I'll be happy to answer it for you.
Awesome. Well, Jordan, thank you for joining us for a podcast. Enjoyed talking to you. It's awesome to have you on the Fall Obsession team. I'm sure this won't be your only time on our show. We'll certainly do an episode again in the near future, but appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sam. I appreciate it. I love being part of the Fall Obsession team and look forward to our next conversation.
Absolutely. Well, for our listeners, thank you all for tuning in to another podcast. Be sure you guys go check out Jordan, everything she's got going on. Be sure you check out Fall Obsession and everything we got going on all those social platforms and everywhere else you can find our content. With that, I'm hanging it up. Be back again with you guys next week for another podcast. Catch you then.